Okay, so the biggest question people have when they get started on the keto diet is what foods should I eat? And maybe as important, what foods should I avoid? So you've been sent a worksheet that has a list of foods to eat and a list of foods to avoid. I cannot possibly list all the foods that there are in the world on this worksheet. So I'm going to educate you in this video of what to look for when you're eating food that may or may not be listed on this list. Okay, so with the keto diet, we're going for 75% of our fuel comes from fat. All right, so when you're looking for food to eat, you want to make sure that the bulk of your diet is fat. All right, that means the butter, the oil, the avocado, the nuts, all of those things. You have to watch for an equal balance of the protein and carbs. So if there's 75% fat to equal out 100%, you're going to have 20% protein and 5% carbs. So be looking for that in the ingredients that you're eating. So if you're eating a packaged food, for instance, you'll look at the back and look at the macros, fat, protein, carbs, how much does it have of each? A lot of times we are programmed to get high protein, low carb. And remember, those high protein foods will turn into carbs and create a carb burning effect instead of a fat burning effect. So be careful of anything with high protein. For example, when I first started out the keto diet, I had a plate full of shrimp, which I always have loved, and I thought it was so good for you, which it is, but not if you're fat burning, because it's so high protein and very low fat. So it was really hard for me to balance out the fat intake with all of that shrimp. I would have had to eat probably a quart of cream in order to balance out the protein that was in that shrimp. So always be thinking about that golden ratio, okay, of 75% fat, 20% protein, 5% carb. This is easy to do if you're eating something packaged because there is a label on it. However, I try to limit the amount of packaged food I eat, because even though if it says keto or keto friendly on it, you're still going to be usually eating a processed ingredient, whether it's sugar, alcohol, or some sort of preservative. So pay attention to how those things feel in your body. When we're doing keto, we do not count dietary fiber as a carb, okay? The other thing we do not count as a carb is sugar alcohol. So you'll see a lot of things that have, like 10 carbs and it says it's keto. Well, that's because 9 of those carbs are sugar alcohols. Pay attention to sugar alcohols. How do they feel? Do they give you digestion issues? Do they have no effect at all? There have been studies that go for and against sugar alcohol. So as a rule, I just try and limit the amount of sugar alcohol I intake just because it doesn't feel good in my body. And I'm trying to really avoid having that sweet tooth, that sweet craving. We really don't need it. It's not a necessary fuel source for our body. Okay. Some of the trouble that people run into also is that they eat all the vegetables. They think all the vegetables are good for you, when in fact, a lot of the vegetables have a high sugar content. And so you really want to pay attention to how many carbs are in the vegetables you're eating. Fruit is very limited. Blueberries are probably the only fruit I've had for about a year, just because they have a lower sugar and carb content. If you ever have a question about any of the foods that you feel like should be keto or should not be keto, you can always quickly look it up on the internet and find out the information, how many macros it has with fat, protein, and carb. Educate yourself so that you're aware of how much fat is in each ingredient that you're eating, and always challenge yourself of how can I get more fat in this. I always recommend eat lots of vegetables, a lot of leafy green vegetables, because those are typically very low in carb, high in fiber, which is very good for your digestion, especially when you're eating a lot of fat, and they're a great carrier for fat. So add the dressing, add the butter, add the oil, and that's a great way to get more fat into your diet. My husband lost a lot of weight by just purely drinking olive oil, which sounds disgusting to me, but that's how he got into ketosis originally, was just drinking the olive oil without anything with it, and making his fat content super high, and then again limiting those carbs. If you have any questions, we can talk about it in coaching. Send me a message as well, and I'm here for you.